rules of the mind, there's about eight primary rules. And so the mind has an intricate connection with the body. So no matter what the conscious mind wants to do in terms of reaction, in terms of belief, in terms of emotion, the subconscious mind will always dictate, because the imagination of the pleasure of eating that overrides the fact it's killing you.
Right.
And that's the power of imagination. Here is the conscious mind. Here's the subconscious mind. In between is something called the critical factor. A competent hypnotist will remove that critical factor.
The power you seek lies within you, as we are each infinite beings living a human experience. The truth of who and what we are has been hidden from us until now. Awaken, my friends, to this new reality that we are in fact creating everything through the power and the gift of our wonderful imagination. Join me as I unlock the secrets of our past and reveal the truth that has been clouded in this veil we call life. What reality will you choose to create today? The choice is yours. Welcome, my friends, to My Reality Practice. Hello and welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on the Reality Practice podcast. Today's guest is Jim Lutes. Known by many as one of the world's top hypnotists, Jim Lutes is an expert in Neuro Linguistic Programming and is a published author of the world's fastest growing personal development book series, The Change. Chances are when you hear the name Jim Lutes, then most likely a top performer in your company has attended one or more of his dynamic trainings over the last few years. Having taught his branded form of human performance since the early 90s, he founded his company Lutes International and has been accelerating top entrepreneurs and those seeking personal growth and development now for over 40 years. Through his work with the subconscious mind and his ability to help people rewrite their internal stories that they've lived with most of their lives, Jim is helping people permanently remove these aspects that no longer serve them, as he shows people how to design the life of their dreams through the power of their subconscious mind. So without further delay, I want to welcome my good friend, Jim Lutes, to the Reality Practice podcast. Hello, my friend. How are
Mr.
you
Julie
doing?
Kramer, phenomenal job. I've had the great pleasure of meeting you at my home in San Diego. And I just wanted, before we kick off, I have not been doing this for 40 years because I'm not that old. But I have been doing it for nearly 30 years, but somehow I just got a decade older in a matter of 6 seconds. So, dude, take me the other direction. That's what I want to know. I don't want to go that direction. Don't make me 85. I'm not there yet. So
no problem.
75 either, for those of you guys that are doing the math. So yeah, let's have some fun and help some people.
Absolutely. Jim, he's infinitely young. I must have misread that somewhere. So no worries. Really, I wanted to have you on the show today to share your incredible knowledge of how the human mind works and really discuss it with the audience from a scientific, biochemical type of approach on how we're actually creating our own reality. I talk a lot, and I have guests on all the time that are talking in the metaphysical realm and the spiritual realm, and it all plays a role. It all combines here. But what science is proving, that this stuff isn't just made up, make believe, foo-foo. This is scientifically proven, and this is an aspect of how we are creating our reality. So with that being said, I'd love to just kind of start off with, at the beginning, what is the foundation that the listeners need to understand at the fundamental level, as far as how our biochemistry works at the basic level,
Yeah, I'm happy to cover that. First of all, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a biochemist out there. So my knowledge of the biochemistry is probably not the area of expertise that I have. Certainly there is a adjunct effect on the biochemistry, the neurochemistry, but that's not my area of expertise. That is a byproduct of my area of expertise. Now, based on what you're saying, there's truth. It's quantifiable now with the quantum field and thought being energy. So what at one point was theory, belief, hypothesis, but had proof of concept. Science steps in, and now it becomes real to a lot of people because they're able to validate that thought is indeed energy, that this cell phone right here is not solid. It's only perceived as solid by our limited 5 physical senses. And so now that it has been scientifically proven, like I said, there's a lot of things I believe in that don't have scientific validation. But there's a whole contingent of people out there that becomes their go-to method of validation. So if you look at the rules of the mind, there's about eight primary rules. One of them is every thought persisted long enough will develop or become organic change. So what that means, I'll give you a quick example in the spirit of the time here, is every thought, if you persist it long enough, will manifest in organic change. So what does that mean? Well, that's how an ulcer comes around. Because we know that stress can cause an ulcer. Well, stress is an emotion, but it's creating organic physiological change in the stomach by creating a sore in the stomach. So that becomes the conduit between thought and reality, because an ulcer is reality. Breaking out in hives from stress is a reality. Cardiovascular acceleration from anxiety is a reality. And so the mind has an intricate connection with the body. There's an entire science out there. Actually, one of the divisions of my company is under the umbrella of psychoneuroimmunology, which is the mind-body connection as it connects. So it's a quantum leap beyond positive thinking or mindset. Now, am I a fan of mindset? Absolutely. But I also reverse the terminology into set your mind. Now you need to know how to do that, because of course we all want to think positive, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I want you to picture for a second an ant. An ant is sitting on an elephant. Okay. Who dictates where the ant goes? The ant. The elephant. You see, because if the ant wants to go, good guess though, you had a 1 out of 2 shot there. So if for instance, if the ant wants to go left, but the elephant wants to go right, the ant's going right.
Yeah, that makes sense by looking at it on a 40,000 foot view as opposed to the view of the ant.
No, that's fine. Yeah. So the ant is your conscious mind. The elephant is your subconscious mind. So no matter what the conscious mind wants to do in terms of reaction, in terms of belief, in terms of emotion, the subconscious mind will always dictate. Always dictate. Imagine, Joey, imagination always takes precedence over knowledge. Think about that.
Absolutely.
Imagination, and I'll give you 2 examples. One, and we wanted to bring it down to the physiology a little bit. The majority of the people out there know, through knowledge, that saturated fat, and I don't care what anybody eats. I'm not a nutritionist either. So, however, I eat healthy, but the average person out there knows logically, through knowledge, that saturated fats create the #1 killer in the world.
Heart disease, yes.
Right. However, when you start to imagine getting off work and that football game's on and you're with your buddies, then that pepperoni, double cheese, extra meat and sausage pizza, you're going to woof it down, because the imagination of the pleasure of eating that overrides the fact it's killing you.
Right.
And that's the power of imagination, when it can be utilized also in sales, persuasion, influence, because the imagination will always override it. You might take a woman that wants to lose weight. She knows through knowledge that eating that entire chocolate cake is going to put weight on in areas that she doesn't want to put weight on. It's been a hard week, man. Right. And, I worked hard. I had a lot going on, and here comes that justification and rationalization. Pretty soon, here comes that Sara Lee cake out of the refrigerator. She woofs down the whole thing, knowing that it's going to take her backwards from where she wants to go. So once you're able to control that imagination by using hypnosis, by using psychosomatic parenthetics, neurolinguistics, you now control where that elephant goes.
I see. So, if everything's coming from our imagination, from our thoughts, where are those thoughts stemming from within us? What's causing us to create the stories, more or less, that we're telling ourselves? Are those deep rooted? Are those from our emotional past? Like where do those thoughts generate in order to cause us to act the way we act and perceive the world the way we perceive it?
Well, two lanes down it. One, nobody knows where the thoughts come from. In terms of out here, you're going to get into multiple theories of this quantum field, universal consciousness, God. You'll open up different beliefs, but really nobody really knows the origin. But you're talking, that's an external acquisition of thought.
Right. So an external trigger causes us to react.
You're looking at the source. Nobody knows. Science can recreate the human body for the most part in a laboratory. It's carbon, salt, water, and they can go ahead and recreate the human body. They cannot insert the mind because nobody knows what it is. So they can't go to the shelf and get a mind and put it in there because the mind is not part of the body. The mind is not the brain. And so therefore we can sit and wonder, but it's better while we're wondering to learn how to use it regardless of the origin of the thought. But I think what you're referring to is the different. You're referring to inside out. Where do these thoughts come from? And they come from, in many cases, past programming of authority figure, repetition, and traumatic incident.
Yes, that's exactly where I was wanting to go with that. Is, our memories are what are creating the version of reality we're living in right now. And with your work, with hypnosis, with neuro-linguistic programming, you literally have the ability to go back inside people's minds and basically rewrite the story, the memory that they've attached to certain emotions in their lives. And all of a sudden they see the world in an entirely different way. How does that actually work? Can you explain that?
Because when here is the conscious mind, here's the subconscious mind. In between is something called the critical factor. A competent hypnotist will remove that critical factor and go straight into the subconscious. Think of the critical factor as the bouncer at the nightclub. Now, before age 9 to 12, that critical factor, for the most part, is non-existent because the individual, the child, does not have enough life experience to create historical facts or knowns or comparative analysis or anything else. So what happens is whatever you tell that child, primarily through authority figure, repetition, traumatic incident, either experience or told, goes straight into there. So if you tell the child that they're ugly or they're not good enough or they're not smart enough, then that's dropping straight into the elephant, so to speak, right in there. So they're going into the nightclub because there's no bouncer at the door. So what happens is then around age 9 to 12, we get enough life experience to refute whether or not Santa Claus really exists or the Easter Bunny. When you're 5 years old, it exists. You bet your life on it exists because an authority figure told you over and over and over and over and over it exists. So the same thing applies to whether it be positive or whether it be negative. So one time I was working with a client and she had fear of intimacy with her husband, and needless to say, it's affecting, her marriage. So she didn't know what to do because she couldn't figure out why she was having the panic attacks. So psychologist after psychologist, let me premise it by saying I have great friends that are psychologists and they do their thing. I do something different. So she went to psychologist after psychologist and, years, and nothing really happened. So when she came in and we integrated some of my strategies and tactics, all I did simply was regress her because the subconscious mind never forgets anything. It knows where you put your keys. You consciously can't remember, but it knows where they're at. Mm-hmm. And so we regressed her back to the eliciting incident. And it turns out that Uncle Charlie did some things when she was 11 that Uncle Charlie shouldn't have done. All right. And it was so horrific that she suppressed it and repressed it as a self-preservation mechanism. Just put it over in the vault. I don't need to, that was so scary. I'm putting it over there. Move forward to 32 years old, 31 years old. And all of a sudden, she doesn't know why she's having that reaction. So what we did, we regressed her back to the incident that was stored prior to the critical factor. Therefore, it was perceived as real, right?
Right.
And like, just like when you were at my home and I was making people laugh at the funniest joke, they really had that funny joke come in their head. Well, that is in her head. So we go back and we restore it as an adult perspective. So an adult knows that what Uncle Charlie did and what your husband and you are doing are completely different things. A child doesn't, because as you said, it's a trigger, right? Now you have a choice. Do you want to bring what happened to conscious awareness, or do you not? In this case, I did not. We went ahead, we restored it, fixed, done, handled.
Wow.
She was cured. But what happens? Why do you think, Joey, I did not bring it to conscious awareness to where she was now aware of what happened? Why would I not do that?
Well, obviously, there's more than one person involved here. So you are, you are affecting the lives of somebody else by helping her heal from her past. It's not intended to hurt anybody else, but the ramifications, I assume, would be impactful towards her husband. And
sure, because Uncle Charlie isn't dead. Uncle Charlie is at the Christmas party.
Yeah,
Once your husband knows your husband's going to kill Uncle Charlie, now you got a whole nother, set of problems. So sometimes it's better to heal the wound as long as you're not doing what caused the wound over and over and over. The doctor, if you cut your finger and you go to the doctor, he stitches it up. He doesn't care how you cut your finger. It doesn't matter how you cut your finger, providing you're not still holding the knife in the wrong way over and over and over. So if you address the origin of the cognitive cut, so to speak, then onward you go with your life. So it's learning how to control your mind versus your mind controlling you. And it's simple. I mean, people learn to work out, but they don't learn how to work this. And there's, as you know, we've discussed this when you were in San Diego, there's your 5 physical senses, then there's your 6th sense, if you want, just to use a universal term. And for people to exist in a world where they're limited by their 5 physical senses, it is completely restraining to everybody. So I would ask people, do you think there's things that you can't see? And I get yes, and I get no. I mean, some people, they give you the answer they think you want, but then they can't explain that answer. So are there things you can't see? And some people will say no. So then a dog whistle is not real because you can't hear it.
Right.
So it's not real.
Right. No, I mean, obviously we know.
If there's things you can't hear, then aren't there things you can't see or feel? Because you can't just isolate one physical sense. So the premise here is that there are all kinds of things that you can't see or feel based on our limited 5 physical senses. So have you heard of, I think we might have discussed it here, have you heard of the reticular activating system?
Oh, yes. It's very powerful. And that was one of the questions I had for you later, if you'd like to go into what it is and how it actually works to affect how we see and perceive reality.
Well, perception's through the 5 physical senses, unless you are in tune with another way. So emotionalized thought is the spark, emotions are the gasoline on the spark. All a reticular activating system is, it's very simple. It operates off an emotionalized thought. If you want to have a black Mercedes, you see them all over the place. They didn't have a sale, they were there last week too, but you just didn't notice them. So when you're programming your mind to be a millionaire, or you're programming your mind for relationships or emotions or health, when you're programming your mind, then it activates the reticular activating system, but also the hypersensitivity of sight, hearing, auditory, and kinesthetic feeling. So now you overhear that conversation at the booth. It was within earshot before, but your radar wasn't up. Your mind was not programmed in tune to be that radio station, and that's the receiver. You'll notice something on a bulletin board in a different context than you normally would. And so there's an abundance of things out there that are in the tangible world. You're just not noticing.
Right. It's more of an awareness, opening up to that awareness. I hear often that they used to say how when Christopher Columbus sailed over to America and the Native Americans, they're on the beach, they didn't even see the ships, because they couldn't conceptualize that the ships even existed. And it wasn't until they made contact and they're standing on the beach that it was like, it appeared to them more or less. So is that kind of what you're talking about there, is the
100%.
subconscious versus conscious, what we see, what we're aware of?
100%. And just for the record, I was not alive when Christopher Columbus was coming over. I just need to make that historical fact on here. So, but no, absolutely. You know, what happens is people have a tangible, intangible relationship out there. Tangible is, you know, I can hold it, touch it, feel, therefore it's real. So certain people, they cannot function off an intangible, right? An intangible that is universally accepted is the wind. Nobody can see it. You can feel it. So therefore, based on feeling, it's real. Based on seeing it, you can't see wind. You can see what wind does. You can see the leaves. You can see the flag. You can see what it does. So there's social proof. But how do you prove there's actual wind? All you're seeing is the result of the wind. So that's the same way that when I take my students, how do I prove that subconscious programming works? The result will give you the social proof of that. The actual strategy you can't hold in your hand.
Right. It's what happens afterwards. And that, for me, this just fascinates me at the ability of our mind. It's literally like a computer. And what you're doing with NLP, with hypnosis, you're literally going into certain files unbeknownst to the operator. You know, it's like you're a hacker hacking into their file. You're rewriting it or removing it completely and leaving it undisturbed. You get out, and the next thing, you know, and they know nothing. And it's that, to me, that's just fascinating that we have that ability to be in two places, basically present, but not really present, if that makes sense.
It does, but we have one of the things people have a tendency to do is to operate under the construct of fix what's broken. Well, what if there's nothing broken? So think of somebody that is acting like this because they're at physical therapy, because they had shoulder surgery. Well, they're doing an exercise movement. But what about the person whose shoulders are fine, but they're still doing this to warm up before the workout? So you don't always have to be using strategies that I teach for trauma or for things in your past that are holding. Certainly they're applicable. What if everything's just fine? Not everybody has had those challenges. Right. Now you use it for a progression versus a regression, and then a progression. So you can use your mind to fast forward. Your mind cannot differentiate between what is imagined and what is real.
Right.
So most people, unless they're a yogi, most people cannot speed their heart rate up or sweat or kick their adrenal glands in on demand. But if they were to have a dream that there was an intruder tonight that was going to cause them harm, pop, 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 adrenal glands, sweat, even respiratory system. So why can't they do it now? They can't do it now because they're functioning consciously. They are the ant. But when you dream in the subconscious. It really thought it was real. That's why you had a nightmare and you woke up going, oh my God, that seems so real. You cannot do that now. So if I program somebody to be a millionaire, or I program somebody to be a very hyper attractive person to other people, or I program somebody for health, the subconscious mind, using that same principle, really thinks you are. And it goes to work using the 5 physical senses, the reticular activating system, and all of this enhanced radar of the 5 senses, plus the 6th sense and the quantum field, to address creating that equilibrium. Because if you take a cup of water out of the ocean, Joey, what happens to where that water came out of?
It just fills back in.
It fills back in. So when you learn to use your subconscious mind with an intention of a void, you program a void intentionally, aligned with whatever your outcome is. When you do that, the universe fills that void.
I see.
It's the same thing. Rather than you going out and trying to fill the void, why go back and do that when the ocean will do it on its own? Just create the void and then let the void be filled. Because we have a tendency, I think you and I were speaking about this when you're here, is we have a tendency to want to control everything. And just by the very nature of that, we are so limited as human beings that restriction, those inhibitors, mitigate any progression for most people. We're just incapable of controlling at that higher level. We need to allow our minds to be our ally and not our adversary.
Right. And like you said earlier, use that kind of sixth sense, that intuition, let that gut lead us more than very few allow that to happen, right? Where you said we're stuck with that cap, that limited thought that we can do it. And instead of worrying about can we, you're saying just allow it to be and open yourself up to it.
It needs to be learned. See, I'm a big advocate of there are strategies and techniques that people learn in anything. Whether you're doing a bench press in the gym, whether you're playing the guitar, you just can't pick up the guitar and suddenly play a D and an E chord unless you know how to do that. There's a technique to making the music which creates harmony in an orchestra. There's a technique or techniques to use with the human mind that creates that fluidity of the orchestra. So a lot of times people will use affirmations. Mm-hmm. Now they go, Jim, what do you at my seminars or wherever, what do you think about affirmations? Yeah, they're good. Right. They're better than nothing. They don't come close to hypnosis, but they're better than nothing. But here's the problem with affirmations. Two things. One is they don't work very fast. If ever, but sometimes they work. So they don't work real fast. So now we start thinking this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working. And here's our progression. We just went that far back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Because most people don't have the ability to control their thoughts to where they don't have those regression. It's not working, it's not working, it's not working. The other thing is affirmations need to be turbocharged with action. Okay. So over here, you can't see it, but there's a guitar. You saw it when you were here. There's a guitar over here. I am a great guitar player. My hands fly effortlessly across the fretboard. I play scales and chords with precision. No, you don't. I could do that for 10 years and I'm not playing one chord unless I go over there and pick it up. Right. It doesn't matter how many affirmations I do.
I think you hit on a key point there that I talk about a lot is you have to have the imagination. You have to imagine the thought that you want to become whatever it is, a guitarist, a millionaire, but without taking actual action. You have to make the movement in that direction in some manner. You can't just sit here and I will become a millionaire and just stranger things have happened, but 99 out of 100 people, we actually have to take action and we have to set the wheels in motion, more or less.
Yeah, I mean, I used to program my mind to find a girlfriend, and I sat in my living room for 6 months. I thought she was going to manifest in a puff of smoke, in my living room, until I discovered maybe I need to go out. Maybe I need to go somewhere. And hey, it's the girl that spilled coffee on me in Starbucks. I've got to be aware of my environment. And I had a participatory role in creating that environment.
I love that. Now, this kind of leads us into, I feel like, diving a little bit into neuro linguistic programming, NLP, and how that all works. There's a lot to it when we get into submodalities, beliefs, and values. Can you quickly just kind of give a brief synopsis of what NLP is, and then maybe we can dive into a couple of the main parts of it before we finish up today?
Yeah. So I've taught hypnosis and NLP all over the world for almost 30 years. 30, Joey, 30, not 40. And so, so I'm just giving him a hard time, but we're friends. So NLP stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming, definition, brain language programming. So it's an interesting, without getting into the history of Richard Bandler and everything, it's an interesting process, if you will. And I couple it with hypnosis, which is very unique, but turbocharges it, if you will. So there's 4 primary categories of usage for NLP. One is rapport building and creating rapport, creating depth of rapport, and that can be used for relationships, interpersonal communication, sales, whatever you want. So that's the first one. And some people just stop there. That's because that's what their desire is. The second one would be using it as a persuasive or influential tool, to where you're using those same strategies with an outcome attached to it. We all want win-win, not manipulation, persuasion, influence.
Right, right.
The third one would be to where you're able to affect the things, the restrictions within another individual and let them blossom before your eyes, almost without, they don't even know you pulled the weeds out of the garden. And all of a sudden there's flower. The fourth is therapeutic, where you'd be working with PTSD or trauma victims or something to where it's phobias, something that requires more of a therapeutic intervention and a deeper dive. So first you wanted to determine where you want to go with NLP. Some people like me, I wanted to know everything to do with it. Some people, they just, I teach a lot of real estate companies. They don't want the therapeutics. They don't even want to unblock other people. They're really just looking for the rapport and the persuasion and influence aspects.
Kind of give them more confidence, give them more ability to engage and not be, not let those limiting beliefs that many of us have, come into play, more or less just evaporate them, destroy them.
No, not really though. Not really. See, we're going back to there's some problem or restriction or something. I have a real estate agent in San Diego. His name is Ben. He's one of the top performing. He has no problems. He doesn't have any restrictions. He doesn't have any inability to communicate. He can't shut the guy up. He talked to everybody in the restaurant. He has no problem with anything. He doesn't have trauma to heal from. He's fine. I
love that. That's a great point to share with the listeners is, a lot of people get caught up in NLP, hypnosis, and they believe that it's something we only do to heal from traumas. And what you're saying is there's so much more that it can be applied to 100%. Creating success and creating the future you want, not just removing the negative that is in some people. So that way it really opens up the door to everybody at this point. Instead of one group, the whole group can use it. That's fantastic.
The physical therapist is getting you to heal. Your shoulder's messed up from surgery, right? But now you can take those movements and build a fitness body. One doesn't have anything to do with the other. If you didn't have to heal, you would still learn similar movements to put on muscle mass. So you're 100% correct. So with Ben, the individual I'm talking about, right? He's fine. But he wants to increase his rapport building capacity, his influence, his persuasion, his communication. Higher power removed, everything you want in life comes from somebody else. So he better out communicate that other agent who are vying for the sale of the same house. It has nothing to do with his past. It has to do with his ability to effectively communicate and influence to people, which is embedded in both hypnosis and NLP in different techniques.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, the focus really is on the way we communicate with each other, but how we communicate with the mind, and more in particular, the subconscious mind. And how, maybe last question before we switch topics here, how important are the beliefs that people have as far as how their mind operates? Is it, I've studied a lot on it, and the beliefs and values we possess really direct the way we perceive, the way we react, the way we live our lives. And, how powerful is it with hypnosis, NLP, to go back in? And for those that want to heal or want to change something, they're not happy with something, how do you go in and grab those beliefs and misguided thoughts?
You don't extract them, you change them.
Okay.
It's not surgery. We're not removing a tumor. And so you change them, but there has to be what's called calibration. There has to be congruence toward the outcome, right? In other words, you can't think of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, all right? They don't go out downtown San Diego here and just scoop people up. Basically, we're over here, and when you're ready to change, you come over here.
I see. Yeah.
So the individual has to be ready to relinquish those old beliefs, and then the hypnotist or the NLP practitioner can assist in changing those beliefs if the desired outcome outweighs where they came from. So if my parents said, Jim, you're ugly. Why can't you be? Your brother's a model. You're ugly. You're ugly. You're ugly. Which, by the way, isn't true. But they go ugly, ugly, ugly. And so all of a sudden, I've got those beliefs. But as I grow older, those are affecting me. Maybe if I'm single and out dating, it's affecting me. But those beliefs, I'm ready I know consciously that that's BS. I don't believe it anymore. I'm 40 years old and I don't believe it anymore, right? But they're there affecting my behavior. Then when you understand that, when you come in, it's easy to redirect those beliefs or diminish them and redirect them, because the gain outweighs where you're at.
I love it. That's I think that's what holds a lot of people back from seeking the help or healing from whatever they're wanting to heal from, is, they want to have to change. It's comfortable. It's comfortable for a lot of us, even though we're in so much pain. It's more comfortable to drink a case of beer every night and drown that pain away. It's more comfortable to stick in the habits that we think are making us feel good, but they're actually destroying us, making us feel like more of a shit towards ourselves. So I think would you say that's a lot of the struggle maybe you see out there in the NLP community, is people have to want to consciously get better and step outside into a new self?
100%. My friend Joey Kramer comes to me and he says, "Hey Jim, I heard you're a personal trainer, fitness trainer." I go, "Yes, Joey, I am. I want to be in great shape. Go take a gym membership out and meet me at the gym in the morning." Well, I don't want to do that part. I don't know, man, what to tell you, So, there's always that. You can sit and have an innate desire. People do that all the time. I have a desire to do this or do that. Really? Well, but they're not wanting to take the action. But part of those reasons are embedded fear of success, fear of failure, fear of risk. Mm-hmm. So, and then without diving deep into this, sometimes you got to put your diapers on and audition for American Idol.
Right.
Yeah.
Take the plunge.
Hey, you lose your career. So American Idol is coming to San Diego. They're auditioning 2 weeks from Saturday. I know you want to be a singer. That's your aspiration. That's your goal. I can get you an audition. Well, can you tell the producers to circle back around, because I'm not ready yet. I got to go get programmed first. And then I got to get over all my fears first. And then I got to go get rid of what's holding me back. And then I got to get rid of this. You lost your shot, because they're not coming back, and you're not going to be the next Beyonce because you weren't ready. So sometimes just that definitive action, you can deal with everything else, but the challenge is it becomes like a devil in disguise, and sometimes because you're missing opportunities while you're waiting to get ready to get going. Not yet. As soon as I feel confident, I'm going to go be a singer. As soon as I'm confident, tell that to the American Idol producers, they don't care. So you got to look at some opportunities, and sometimes it is just, get up and throw up. And you got to make things happen, versus that's what I do for a living has that side of it, to where it creates certain people that I give them a reason to wait. I'm not fixed yet. I'm not healed yet. Is anybody ever really healed? Because you have to look at healed from what, and what's normal, what isn't normal. So now these days, as you know, with social media, everybody has a perfect life, perfect mate, perfect everything, perfect filter. Everything's perfect. So what happens now is they're healing. And of course, people need to heal. I'm not saying that at all. They need to heal from physical trauma, mental, emotional, psychological. Of course, they need to heal. However, you never know when you're healed, because you're always comparing yourself to perfection. It's the carrot at the end of the stick. When have you arrived? When do you wake up and go, I'm healed? And I see people, friends of mine, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. They become addicted to that process for this reason. They don't know when they've arrived, because it's an ambiguous island. When are you there? There's no way for them to know.
I love that. That's the idea. For whatever reason, my speaker just started feeding back on me there. But I love that idea. One of the things that's always stuck with me from what you've said in the past is, what are you waiting for? That I'm getting ready to, and it was like, what are you waiting for? Just, you got to jump. You got to do it.
They'll have an answer though.
Oh yeah. The excuses, the stories,
they're going to tell you what they're waiting for.
Right.
Waiting for grandma to move out, the dog to have puppies, get my new apartment, my toenail to heal. Boy, they've got a whole answer of, what it's going to take and why they're not doing it right now. But then you arrive, I think you're there. I mean, I've been there for a long time, but you arrive with an innate sense of confidence to where there's not one person, and it's not that I'm special, I'm just know the human mind. If I ask any of my friends, bet against me, nobody will bet against me. They won't do it. If I say I'm going to be a ballet dancer, they may laugh.
But you know how to take the right steps and to program your mind and your thoughts properly to get the outcome you want, whether it's ballet dancing, a new car, whatever. And
I think that, that you brought up a good appointment, or a good point. And that is, if you make a commitment to yourself, that's a contract. I don't break those contracts ever, ever, not even a chance. However, people make weak commitment. It's like, I'm committed to going to the gym. So if you don't, I get your house. Well, no. Okay. Well, I'm committed to my wife unless I find somebody else I want to be with. That's not commitment. That is a misuse of the word commitment, because when you have a defined commitment, it eliminates all that. Once you're willing to do whatever it takes, you don't have to do whatever it takes. And that's the way the subconscious mind works. In other words, I'm not keeping our morals and ethics in line, of course. But what happens, Joey, if I have to pick up a bottle, this magic bottle of water in Los Angeles on a Friday afternoon in Southern California traffic. And it's a 2-hour drive there and probably longer back. You tell me I have to go get this magic bottle of water. If I'm willing to do whatever it takes, the thought of the traffic, the agony, the stop and go, all the time, the gas, on and on, the fumes, all that didn't even go in my mind. See, I don't pollute my mind with all that because I've already made a contract to do whatever it takes. Great, I get in my car, I point it up there. I don't care if it takes 6 hours. I don't care if there's massive traffic. I don't think of that because I made a commitment to do whatever it takes. When I decide I need the bottle of magic water that Joey told me about, consider it done.
Wow, that's powerful, and something I think we can all implement in our lives moving forward is, that commitment and that contract with ourselves. That's where it starts. I love that. And I'm definitely going to pursue that more just in hearing you talk about it. That's awesome. Let me ask you a little bit about this book series, The Change, that you have here. It says it's fastest growing personal development book series on the market. Give us just a little bit of info about that and where people can find it and how it can help them.
Sure. I have the California license plate, my most prized possession, the personalized plate entrepreneur. And so people say, hey, can I have the license plate or can I buy it? I go, no, you can have the car, but you're not touching the plate, because that represents to me what I had to go through and learn on the job training, so to speak, as an entrepreneur. So a few years ago, created a book series, and my co-publisher was Jim Rohn's partner for 10 years and embedded in the personal development community. And I created the book series specifically for coaches, speakers, trainers, and entrepreneurs, because it's easy to start a business, not easy to grow one. You can be the greatest yoga instructor on the planet. You trained in the Himalayas and you open up San Diego Yoga and you go out of business. Your skills don't necessarily translate into scaling the business. So I had an idea, and you see some copycats out there, but that's okay. This book series is called The Change, and it is the fastest growing personal development book series in the world. And people invest in a chapter. Now, sometimes you'll talk to people and they go, oh, cool, tell me about it. Sometimes you'll talk to people and they go, oh, you want me to pay me in the book? Yeah, because you cannot show me a more powerful PR marketing and branding platform in the world. Because a Facebook ad goes away, a booth at an expo goes away, a magazine ad goes away, and a radio spot goes away. This never goes away. So there's 20 co-authors in each chapter. 19 people are promoting you online and off, online and all over the world. And your chapter functions, I'll dumb it down to where it functions as a brochure on steroids, because it's your picture, your 3,000 word chapter, and then your contact information. So somebody's in Vancouver, Canada, reading the book. They're reading all these 20 short chapters. They read yours and go, oh my God, I'm resonating with this guy, or I'm resonating. And they reach out to become a client, have you speak. So it's a permanent ad, if you will. Les Brown writes the foreword for me, and his picture's on the cover with the co-author. So if Bob's a co-author, his picture goes on the cover with Les. If Linda's a co-author, Linda's picture goes on the cover with Les. So It is a PR marketing and branding platform in the form of a book.
That's
So
fantastic.
I've got my
What a
own
great
book.
idea.
So you imagine, and then I do a marketing training with them, and so does the other Jim. And so it's really something. It's a way to market your business, and so people, they have a tendency to keep it in the book category. They'll say to me sometimes, "Well, I'm writing my own book." That's great. I've got books that I've written. That has nothing to do with this. This is like, I always use these simplistic analogies. Think of a folder with your brochure in there.
Mm-hmm.
And 19 people are going to hand that folder out all over the world, online and off. And every recipient of that folder reads your brochure.
That's fantastic. And I mean,
leverage.
stories, I love the idea. The concept is it's not you preaching self-development. It's 20 different people at a time sharing their own personal journey and their own techniques and tricks, what they use. And I love that. It's kind of, I resonate with this author, but not so much with that one. And what a fantastic idea. What a gift to share with the world. Thank you.
No, it took off. I mean, I have over 300 co-authors in 30 countries right now.
That's fantastic.
From Dubai to, just got off the phone yesterday with a guy from Romania, South Africa, London, Ireland, so it's great because they're all collaborating on podcasts and speaking engagements and client acquisition. I'm not a woman's trauma coach, but Marie is. Let me refer her. So it's a great thing. It's a great thing to help people. And I did it out of the spirit of, obviously, I'm not going to do it for free. I can't. But I did it out of the spirit of helping, somebody. So they asked me, when I started, what are you going to charge to be in the book? I said, I'm going to charge what they charge for a booth at an event. Could I charge $20,000? Probably. But I'm going to charge what they charge for a booth. So average booth at a large expo is about $3,500, $3,000. So it's $3,500 to be in the book. Nobody can show me anywhere they could invest $3,500 in their coaching, speaking, training, leadership, entrepreneur business that would ever come close to the ROI, because it never goes away. So I did it for the right reason, for the right people. It's an elective. Nobody has to do it, but social proof is I've got over 300 co-authors, and then some celebrities started calling me, or some other. They said, I saw this book in LA. I saw this book in Nashville. So I got a call from Nashville. It was the winner of The Voice television show. And he goes, I have this story I need to get out there. And heck, I'll just put my link to my albums and stuff in the back, into his stuff. Do they still have albums, Joe? Into his music in the back. And so he's in the book. And then he called me and he goes, Jim, what are you doing? This is 3-4 years ago. He calls me and he goes, what are you doing next weekend? I don't know. Why? He goes, why don't you fly to Nashville and introduce me at the Country Music Awards? I said, okay. so I went there and introduced him at the, they have the television one and then simultaneously outside with thousands of people. So got to introduce him. And that's what we and I talked, guys, it's not your bank account. It's not, it is the connections and the community. And there's a difference between a connection and a community. Book over to the side. There's a difference between connections are connections. Community is not necessarily a Facebook group only. That is a community, or a LinkedIn group. But a community, in my opinion, is when you have depth of interaction that are combined with emotions. I want to help you. You want to help this person. And when you have that, you're doing things for people, not to them. You're making an income by giving, not by taking. Now the universe opens up because it's an abundant supply versus an acquisition type, mentality.
Absolutely. I mean, it just goes back to the more you give, the more you get back in return. It's the way the universe works. Absolutely. Last thing I want to touch on real quick, and then we'll wrap this up. You've got a pretty amazing event coming up at the end of April, beginning of May. Right. If I'm correct on it. And it's with our mutual friend and friend of the show, Raul Lopez Jr., and that's called No Compromise. Can you share just a little bit about that? And then we'll figure out how people can reach out to you, how they can get involved.
Yeah, no, Raul's a good friend of mine and yours, and a very talented speaker, and puts on some big events called Tag Talks. Everybody needs to get to one. They're going on the West Coast now. So we did an event, a mastermind at my home called Mind 2. And people came in from all over the country, and I did it at the penthouse here and made it really cool, and just wonderful, wonderful people. So we decided, we like synchronizing together. What else can we do? Because in any event, it's impossible to give the whole boat of knowledge, so to speak. So create an event coming up called No Compromise, to where Raul's going to change his, or share, not change, change your, but share his branding strategies, how to build a brand, how to create your story, how to really circumvent just being lost in the sea of confusion. And then I'm going to teach hypnotic selling. Everything is sales. I'm going to teach NLP there to a certain depth level. And then I'm going to go ahead and teach 60-second rapport using NLP strategies, hypnosis strategies to how to build rapport very quickly versus building a relationship with an individual for a year before they actually become a client or something. There's nothing wrong with building relationships, but it's not a prerequisite to building a business. It's an addition, if you would. So that's coming up. We're going to do that in Newport Beach, California. We love cool locations. And so we're doing it right on the water of Newport Harbor. And then on day 3, we have a yacht. And so we're going to put all the attendees on the yacht and go out into Newport Harbor the last part of March, or last part of April, first part of May, and have some fun. Because any events I've ever done, I want the knowledge to be there, but I want the experience to remain. I've done lots of events. I'm sitting in a stoic hotel room. Nothing wrong with that. I'm sitting in a theater style. I'm like in school. Nothing wrong with that. I've done it, hundreds of them. But I like to have that experience, whether you're in San Diego going out or you're on a yacht, or you combine that knowledge with experience. So yeah, that's coming up the last few days of April, 3 days. So I think it's April 30, 31, and then May 1st.
Fantastic. And I mean, I agree with you. I go to a lot of self-development training seminars, and anymore, it's not as much about the education I get there, because I've heard a lot of it, it becomes repetitive, but I think it's good to refresh on a lot of the things, but the experience is really what I go for now as well. It's, can I get this education and the experience? That's so much more powerful, I feel like. And what do we know about emotions and locking them into our subconscious mind? So if we have a great experience, then everything you learn is going to want to take root a lot easier, wouldn't it?
100%, because it's emotionalized. Also, though, sometimes the message is delivered through a different messenger. And for instance, I think that we should get on today and start today. There's it closed down every martial arts studio in the country. Jiu-jitsu, karate, Muay Thai, judo. Let's just close them all now. You know why?
Why?
Because they can go get the information out of a book or a video. What do they need an instructor for?
Right. No, it's never the same.
Because they need an instructor to say, your eyes aren't where they need to be. Your body language needs to be like this. It's not one size fits all, right? You can't fly a helicopter from a video. So you need somebody there, because I guarantee you, if I trained karate on a video, and it's a damn good video series, I mean, it was a 9th degree black belt, I trained, and you went into the dojo for 6 months, you're going to beat my butt, because they actually altered the moves to fit the situation. The same thing with NLP or branding or anything. It's not a one size fits all course. It needs to be individualized.
Nice. Jim, how can people find you, reach out to you? How can they get a copy of your book? How can they attend this No Compromise?
Sure. You can reach out to me, and I'll give them a VIP red carpet discount for everything. And reach out to me if you're interested in learning how to reprogram your mind. And enough's enough, man. I mean, time goes by. Get it done now, because 10 years from now, you could have had those 10 years being synchronized and getting rid of the things that we all go through in life. So you can contact me at lutesinternational.com. So that's LUTES international.com, LUTES international.com. You can email me at Jim, is my private email, jim@lutesinternational.com. And I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, and everywhere. So however you want to reach out, whatever's easiest. I'm a guy that likes to talk to people and hear their emotion and interaction. I think that is different than LOL. I just do, so I kind of like to interact. So I'm happy no matter where you're at in the world to jump on a call or a Skype or Zoom, whatever you want to do, and create that relationship, see how I can help you out and tell you how you can attend the events and the experience and have a toast on the yacht in Newport Beach if you want to. So let's have some fun. Life is short. It's a blink. So we'll have some fun. And Joey, I consider you a lifelong friend. We met through this industry. Correct. And now, we've been out having dinner and you've been at my place so now here's exactly what I'm saying. I'm always learning from you. You're always learning from me. I'm always learning from everybody else, but we have an experience now that's a memory of San Diego. So we've got lots more experiences. As soon as you give me the green light that it's not cold, I'm a native San Diego boy. So when it's not cold where you live, I'll jump a flight over there. But please, man, no snowshoes or mittens.
No, that would be, you don't want to come to Kansas City till at least June. But August, it's miserable and 105 degrees. So June's pretty perfect. So that'd be a good time to come.
I'm coming. All right.
All right. It's time for the last question that I ask every guest. And since this show focuses on creating your own reality, if I could snap my fingers like you do with hypnotizing people, if I could snap my fingers right now at this second, what reality would you live in? What would you create? What would the world look like for you? Go.
I would have everybody level up in these 4 areas to the best of their ability. Because when you level up in these 4 areas, your life has fluidity and harmony, and that is emotions, right? Learn to control your emotions. Number 2, your health. Number 3, your finances. Number 4, your relationships. And if any of those are out of sync, the car is running with a messed up piston and it's knocking. So I would have everybody look at those 4 areas and up level them as fast as possible because they all work as a team. They all work in harmony. You're going to see the clouds disappear and going, my God. I mean, I was like driving a car that was, pinging and the pistons were messed up. Once you get those going in sync, your relationships improve, which means your interactions improve, which means the town improves, which means the state improves, and you are that ripple. You got to get off the ripple, fix the ripple, and then let the ripple affect everybody out there worldwide.
That's beautiful. I love it. It's you really want to impact the world and help everybody really evolve into their true self, their true being. And I mean, that's so noble. That's just amazing. For you guys, I tell you, check out Jim's website. I'll have all the links in the description box below, but you guys have got to see what he's doing with the power of the subconscious mind. Truly amazing, unbelievable work. Thanks, Jim. You are doing so much good in the world. And I appreciate you. I appreciate our friendship, everything, that you bring to the table. So thank you again for such an impactful educational show today. And I want to thank everybody who took the time to watch this. And if you like this interview, if something resonated with you, make sure you share it with your friends, your community. Give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button on the channel there, and make sure you don't miss any episodes. They come out every Wednesday. And then I've also got other videos coming out all throughout the week. So hit subscribe, hit like, share, comment. Can't wait to bring you the next episode. So until next time, thanks for watching. Stay blessed. And remember to always ask yourself, what reality are you choosing to create today? Bye now.